paranoid at all. Hi, thank you for tuning in today. This is Elevated Intel, and my name's Jodi James. It's really good to be back with our FLCAN family. I'm sorry we missed last week. We had some technical difficulties, but if you're tuning in today, glad to have you. We're going to have some interesting dialogue today, but first I wanted to cover some of the things that we're going to talk about. We've got a follow-up to the Glasshouse Farms story that we covered last July. We're going to dig in a little bit on the Texas recriminalization of hemp and what that might mean to individuals. What about the smell of weed? Federal data reports that more people are either daily or near daily users of cannabis than alcohol. So all these things are going to be on the discussions for today. And then later in the hour, we're going to talk about election politics with Hector. He'll be joining me shortly. So again, this is Florida Cannabis Action Network's Elevated Intel. And if you've been following us for a while, you'll recall that we reported almost immediately on the July 10th raid of Glasshouse Farms in California. ICE agents actually raided 2 locations, detained more than 300 people. A man died falling off a greenhouse. Not sure all of how that happened. But the Guardian has reported that the folks at Glasshouse Farms has actually filed a federal lawsuit. So we're going to be following that, making sure that the ICE agents can't go beyond the scope. And according to Glasshouse Farms, they were. So where cannabis and ICE intersected. One of the issues that our team is following is what's happening in Texas. You may realize that Texas has recriminalized the use of synthetic cannabinoids, particularly Delta 10s and Delta 8s. One thing that became very apparent as the team was talking about this is people who bought a legal product last week that may still have that legal product in their possession are now guilty of a felony. So I think you're going to be hearing a whole lot more from Florida Cannabis Action Network about decriminalizing cannabis, because really that is what we're seeing in the push to legalize marijuana, is that law enforcement really doesn't want to come off of those arrests and the criminalization of people who are using cannabis. So we're certainly going to need to massage that a little bit. I was fascinated by the PBS story this week that said that more people are using cannabis daily or near daily than are using alcohol. Certainly that explains some of what we have been seeing as relates to the alcohol industry getting involved in the cannabis lobbying, intoxicating beverages, cannabis beverages going all over the market. So we are going to continue to watch that story. I might also add that 36 federal attorney generals, U.S. attorney generals from 36 states have penned a letter to Congress asking them to maintain the ban on Delta 10 and Delta 8. But again, while I personally would use Delta 10s or Delta 8s, we realize that this is a failure of elected officials. So we're going to continue to talk about that. In the news this week, you may also have saw that the Hillsborough gentleman, Paramedic, who had been challenging a dismissal based upon a tox screen positive for cannabis. He had won at the local trial level, but at the appellate level, he lost this last week. So the appellate ruling was very narrowly tailored. The justices who heard the case, the panel that heard the case, said that I'm sorry, Steve is telling me about a case that we're going to talk about next. Okay, Steve, be ready. Calling on you next. The justices said in this ruling, this appellate ruling against the paramedic in Hillsborough County, that it was strictly based on contract law. So the justices were not looking at whether or not he had a right to cannabis. They were not looking at whether or not this was a Schedule III drug. They were saying that based upon the contract that he signed, that he should be held accountable, and that Hillsborough County did indeed have the right to fire him. So we're certainly interested in what's happening in employment law. The couple things that need to change immediately now that cannabis is Schedule 3, and we are still watching to see if anything comes from the DEA hearings that were completed just the middle of July. But I do believe that cannabis is Schedule 3 as of right now. If you are going to an employer, I believe that you have a right to tell the employer that they need to accommodate you. And this is going to be settled on a case-by-case basis. You may have seen the announcement that FLCAN put out probably 8 weeks ago now, telling people that if you are part of a union, that you need to be telling your union reps that you want to make sure that in your next collective bargaining contract, the use of cannabis, an exemption is in place for the medical use of cannabis. So more people are using cannabis, and that leads us to great concerns. One of the questions that I'm going to be asking as I go out and speak publicly the next couple weeks is, as new consumers, what have you been seeing? What have you experienced it? And as more people become cannabis users, how are we going to keep people safe? Steve, thanks for joining me from Jacksonville.
Absolutely glad to be here. Sorry I'm late, but as you know, our audience doesn't know, I'm teaching again, so I don't get out of school until 3:50 and I don't get home until like 4:10. So I'm going to be here last minute now.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you, and congratulations on your new teaching job. We need brilliant minds and compassionate people, and that's certainly what we know about Steve. For those of you who missed it, Steve was FLCAN's Volunteer of the Year last year, new member Volunteer of the Year. So thanks for coming on strong, Steve. We appreciate you very much. And you put in something about flock cameras. No, I didn't see anything about flock cameras.
So get this. Now, listen.
The term.
Until
a couple weeks ago.
Oh, you never heard the term before?
A couple weeks ago was the first time I had ever heard it. And it might have been when Hector was in Miami with us. Is that accurate? Hector was,
I'm not
sure Hector's with us
when
too.
This arrest happened, but I'm just going to give a quick detail because I'm pretty sure that this was very recent and facts are still coming out, and I don't want to talk out of my butt. I like to be honest and open, but I'll tell everybody what I read. There's a guy from Wisconsin, and he drove into Michigan. And he drove into Michigan on a daily basis, or not daily. I'm sorry. I said daily, not daily. But he drove into Michigan on enough basis that the flock cameras tracked his license plate, and they were like, what's this dude doing going from Wisconsin to Michigan all the time, where pot's legal? So in the article, they said that the officers used the logic of, well, he's probably bringing back pot. Let's pull him over. And they used these flock cameras as probable cause to pull him over on his way back into Wisconsin from Michigan. And of course, he was buying pot where it was legal. And they arrested him.
We talked about Michigan pot.
Yeah.
Wow.
So luckily he's fighting it and it's going to court, and that's how the story broke, was from court documents. And I'm everybody calls me more on the liberal side of the political spectrum. I personally think I'm in the center. But the one thing I know I'm 100% against is a government agency tracking us with cameras. Like, I'm sorry, did I not spend 21 years of my life defending freedoms to have them taken away? I'm pretty sure we have this guaranteed in the Constitution that they can't do stuff like that. And I'm saying pretty sure facetiously, I know 100% it is. But I wanted to bring that to your attention, and I'm definitely going to be digging on this more, and I'm hoping to find more information for next week.
Well, I appreciate that. Please do. Guilty as charged. I have gone across state lines into Michigan to buy cannabis. As a matter of fact, I made a joke with some of the people when I was in there buying cannabis in Michigan about, going back and forth and people going back and forth. And they said they have people who come from as far as West Virginia.
I believe it. I
So
believe it. Michigan had good weed.
it's and it's funny that you said that, because the guy that at the store that I was at, he bragged. He said when the feds create a policy based on the one we have here in Michigan, good. So very interesting. Hector, are you with us today?
I am here. TGIF.
So
TJIF, Hector. It's good to see your face. I love seeing your face.
Good to see you guys. Just a reaction to the two stories, of course, is the rest of can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So in terms of the legal case in appeals regarding the firefighter paramedic, of course, we're talking about a non-risky behavior. This is medically prescribed, although they don't want to use the word prescribed, but it is by a medical professional, off duty, not on the job site, being medicated. And then, of course, how many people actually do their go on the road after taking a Xanax or some other antidepressant that also inhibits reflexes, just driving every day commute to work, and then they're going to work certainly not in 100% of their capacity. It just goes to show how counterproductive the policy is right now and the thinking in the courts. The other part of that story is that the Attorney General the Florida Attorney General who's asking for your vote right now, if you're a Republican in that primary and later in November, wrote into the brief into the appeal saying that their goal is to ensure that nobody that no first responder whatsoever under any circumstances should have access to this medicine, which is a horrible public policy position to have. Now, regarding the flock cameras, we've seen different types of surveillance tools being used to track people's everyday behaviors and find patterns, and then and of course, none of this is justifiable. Should justify probable cause searches, or give extra legal reasons for anyone to peer into your life whatsoever. But I will say Michigan is one of the states that has both a medical and a recreational market. So in other words, you can just show up with a driver's license and purchase cannabis from the counter at their dispensaries. So I guess it's something that they see a lot of, but still nothing illegal. A legal purchase in one state, bringing it into another state for non-commercial, personal use also doesn't violate some kind of crime. And if it, although I'm sure the feds love the idea that there is some kind of, that one state is declaring the mere transport of a legal product from one state to another as, hey, you're violating the federal law. I mean, that's just doesn't make any plain sense. But that's where we're at, and this is what the pushback to legalization looks like until not just, I mean, the society is well ahead of the regulators, well ahead of law enforcement, and it's in that order that it always happens. The people react. Regulators are slow to change. Law enforcement is the last to change their position on these issues. So there were, what's that?
I was going to say, we launched our a $40,000 fundraising campaign this past week with Florida Cannabis Action Network, because people need to be informed about who to vote for. I think that the information that you were talking about with our Attorney General, how mean-spirited to say that someone who puts their life on the line, like a first responder, should not be able to use a constitutionally protected state legal medicine, particularly now that the federal government. I did have an opportunity to speak to the media a little bit about that first responder in Hillsborough. And I think that, the courts are way out of step with the Trump administration. Our Supreme Court will absolutely have a say in this because this case, of course, is going to be appealed. But how mean-spirited of the Attorney General. The federal administration has rescheduled cannabis. The federal AG knows it, CDC knows it, FDA knows it, and we have someone that is so out of touch here in Florida. But we are the home of prohibitionists, drug-free America, save our society from drugs, and of course the newest iteration, smart approaches to marijuana. And they are, like you said, definitely fighting back. So thank you for that. I know that if you.
Hey, Jodi, let's get in this in that topic a little bit more. Florida has its own version of the Controlled Substances Act, and when the federal policy changed, the Florida Attorney General under state law is supposed to actually update the Controlled Substances Act list to adjust where marijuana is, or to match. Has he taken that? No, of course he's now taking the opposite position. In fact, in violation of the act. So who's going to hold the top law enforcement person accountable? Only the voters.
And luckily we are going to get to do that. Primary is closing on August 18th, right? Do I have my date right? August 18th.
That's right.
Is the last
Tuesday,
day to vote.
Tuesday, August 18th. And what does that put us at? 11 days.
Week from Tuesday. So early voting should begin in most jurisdictions, and absentee ballots have already gone out. So I know we talked on our legislative call, voters in Yvonne Henson's district every voter in Yvonne Henson's district there in Gainesville is going to get to vote, despite the fact that Yvonne Henson was a Democrat and only Democrats are running. Because only Democrats are running, even if you are a no party affiliate, even if you are a Republican, you will still have an opportunity to vote in the primary. So isn't that something? Well, we have closed primaries. So if only Democrats are running and they have a opposition in the general election, then it's a closed primary. If there's no opposition in the general election, they open the primary up for all of the voters. So are there any other races in Florida? I know you have a beat on this, Hector. Are there any other races in Florida that you're paying attention to?
There are a number. I think there's a state house election in Miami-Dade County, for instance, that's a universal primary that's open. I cannot remember the number of it right now, but you're right. There are a few of them that have opened up. Usually political operatives close them by bringing in a writing candidate who has no chance, has never won in the 2026. So this is basically the 24-year history of being able to close those universal primaries with just a write-in.
Okay.
It's unusual, but you get to vote. Then if you get to vote. I will tell you that. If I was a political party, on the other hand, I would be terrified by the fact that more people not of my party are going to be selecting the nominees for my political party or even who's going to be the eventual winner, right, of that. Because this is the reason why you get to vote now is because there is no general election. This is the general election. But it is a scary thought that I would be my political party would be outnumbered basically among in the electorate. Because no political party has a majority basically in any electoral district in Florida. So that's on that note. It is interesting. We're collecting a lot of information from people, from candidates that are in contested primaries. That information is mostly available, or soon to be entirely available on FLDecides.org. FLDecides.org. Florida Decides is the website where we've been collecting this information and tracking. What's that?
.com. FLDecides.com.
Sorry, FLDecides.org is something else.
But go to FLCAN.org and you can click right in there to our voter education program. That's really what we think is the most valuable thing that people can do right now is educate themselves.
Right. Absolutely. We have a treasure trove of information, policy information. You ever wondered what questions you could ask? Not just ask the question to ask legislators and any of public officials on these issues. Most importantly, what can they do about it? Right? It's not. There's a lot of policy that has not been enacted in Florida, like any of the other states that have these programs in place. So as a result, we're always deficient and always kind of reacting to problems as they arise. So it's important that we have that we establish our voice in these primaries and how these candidates who are basically always going to be the ones who get elected in the general election anyway, no matter what happens in November, these people that be elected in these are predominantly the ones who are going to be elected and be your legislators. So so this is it. This is the opportunity we have. So if you have any questions about your particular legislator, you can look it up on our website, or you can always contact us, and we'll be happy to look it up for you and work out some questions if you want to reach out to them and get them on the record even further.
If you're a member of Florida Cannabis Action Network, we'd certainly be happy to send you a link so that you can do the research. Again, we're trying to raise $40,000 to make sure that we can get out the vote and get this website known. People need to realize all the work that Florida Cannabis Action Network does, gathering information in Tallahassee, working the halls during legislative session and the weeks prior to legislative session. But this is the time where we're setting the table. And who's invited to the table is up to voters. So if you don't like the way politics as it relates to marijuana policy has been going the last few years, the best day to do something about it is today. If you're not registered to vote, it's too late to do that. But it's not too late to take people to the polls. It's not too late to make sure that your neighbors are educated. This is really important. I love the way AARP, NRA, these are single issue voters. NRA is not voting for a candidate that's not rated A by the NRA, Florida Sports Association. And we're just not that dedicated yet.
Yeah, it's important to know that your voice does matter, even more so in these smaller elections. A 100 votes can make the difference between a winning candidate and losing one. And we had 1.7 million people sign a petition for adult use. So it didn't get to the ballot, but of course it didn't, right? But now if you want to support that,
politicking.
right? But if you don't, right? But if you want to improve the laws, the next best thing is to actually elect the people who do that on a regular basis. So, like I said, 100 votes could count. Sometimes it's even less, a lot less.
Steve, did you want to plug in on this?
No, I think I'm going to stay away from the politics.
Okay. You made some phone calls though and organized.
Oh, I
some of
did.
your
That was a lot of
community.
fun. I kind of feel bad because I have
Appreciated.
4 candidates left that I need to call still, and it's getting close down to the wire. So I hope they'll be answering their phones tomorrow when I call them, but they probably won't.
There you go. Well, actually, a Saturday is probably a good day to get them. They're going to be out running around the last Saturday before the election. They will definitely be out and about. So, of somebody in your community that's really great on this issue, do yourself a favor and let your neighbors know that this is a good reason to vote for them. I don't know that I have any favorite candidates. I do know that Yvonne Henson's endorsed her aide. Do you have a favorite in that Miami race, Hector?
As far as I'm aware, the only candidate who's ended up completing a questionnaire for us has been Tony Diaz in I think it's 114, and other people have been shy. Let's put it that way. So people,
Okay.
So reward the brave.
Yes, reward the brave.
100%. So interesting. Are you paying any attention to the Democratic governor's primary?
It seems to be unfolding as it has in the past between a moderate centrist versus a progressive candidate, with the 2 leading candidates being, of course, David Jolly and a former representative and Republican David Jolly, and former state representative Dottie Joseph, also from Miami. So who's parked in the progressive lane. David Jolly somehow, if you look at the sample ballot, got appointed a running mate early before the primary, and got that person's name on the ballot with them, and that name is Gwen Graham. So
Oh my.
if you have,
Okay.
so I don't know, I've never seen that before, but I think, basically every trick has been pulled now to try and make it that to give that enormous advantage to probably the biggest name, household name in Florida Democrat politics, the Graham family, involved.
Graham was our
Very
governor.
well done both in Tallahassee, yeah, and as U.S. Senator, and she was also elected a congresswoman 2 terms in North Florida.
Right.
Very well known in Miami. Their original tract of farms were here in Miami. The point is you know, it beyond the primary, it seems that we're continually seeing efforts to coordinate candidates on either side of the political spectrum, and the Trump endorsed candidate on the Republican side, Byron Donalds, it would seem to be a shoe-in to win, except you know, coronations are messy. So we'll see what actually happens on the 18th of August. I suspect that there's anybody tied right now to the Trump administration is not going to have a fair, an easy win effort of it in November, and the coronation as a result on the Democratic Party side is important enough to wonder if this is if this moderate centrist effort is not some and agreed on effort to push back on Trump era endorsements as trying to weaken in the future.
Hector,
But
I have a question for you if you
don't know exactly what's going to happen. Sure.
And I'm asking you this because you are leaps and bounds more knowledgeable about politics than I am. But from what I understand, the only candidate that's come out and said, as far as he's concerned, cannabis is a done deal, is David Jolly. Has anyone else come out and said that? Or something along those lines?
So Dottie Joseph introduced a bill for us. So in the Democratic primary, my vote goes to the people who have done,
Oh, yeah.
put their money where their mouth is. So if you're on the fence in the primary, vote Dottie Joseph. We can handle whatever they throw at us in the general, but really, if we're trying to move cannabis policy, Dottie Joseph is the one. I was looking for something for a presentation I gave last month, and I found a little segment, Congressman David Jolly congratulating the Florida Sheriff's Association for getting an award from Drug Free America. Seriously? How close do you have to be to Drug Free America for them to get you to be the one to announce the Sheriff's Department's award? So don't tell me that David Jolly is now suddenly going to be like, oh yeah, marijuana is good. All he said is, well, almost 60% voted for it. So yeah, I'm in favor of legalization. Where are your canojonas?
Well,
at least have the balls
Let's
to
they
be
get cut off when you run for office.
Well, I ran for office and I would say no. And Hector's run for office and he would say no. I would hope he would say no.
Okay.
And
I'll retract my statement or exclude the present company.
Okay, I will take that because I hear you. I hear you. It does seem like these guys get elected and then they are to things that they didn't believe before. In on that. Ever silent, Hector?
Sorry, it was my internet. It was a little slow for a second. So I think it's important to recognize that Congressman Byron Donalds has been supported, of course, by President Trump, and a big booster of like Trulieve. That the name of the regulatory game right now, yeah, it's nice that medical marijuana has been declared, has been declared legal and federally, right? But there are some problems with what that means, and that just means that federally compared to what, right? That means that now we're expecting an entirely a new regulatory environment from the federal side, and potentially recriminalizing basically the wrong use of medical marijuana, right? And we're still waiting. It's the same arguments that we're talking about in terms of the reclassification of cannabis in general. So if they're going to classify that as Schedule 3, then the entire plant becomes somehow restricted and recriminalized behind an enforcement mechanism, a law enforcement mechanism. There. So right now, the 35 states that have a legal program, state-based legal program, are providing protections without any federal interference whatsoever. Because that's the name of the game right now. At the federal level had been no let the states figure it themselves, and now with the involvement of the federal government, it's now become a much more high stakes issue because now it's one size fits all. That again potentially is all stick and no. What are we getting? What are we getting for this? You know. So that's really the big what legal protections that we need that we're not already getting from the state-based programs. And that's something to be worried about, given especially who's going to be governor, because they have essentially had the bully pulpit to determine which way this is going. You may recall Ron DeSantis actually vetoed once a ban on CBD products, which is now the standard internationally for what should be decontrolled, frankly, from the international perspective, and has set the tone ever since. And the Trump administration, although it's a vast improvement in terms of this is a medically recognized medicine, right? That has medical benefits and should not be criminalized. It should be, and these regulations should be lessened. There's one thing to say it, and then the implementation is always the dangerous part. So whoever gets elected this cycle is going to have a very heavy hand in what the implementation looks like. And there's still a lot of conversation in regards to whether it's going to be the prohibitionists writing the regulations or not.
Well, and we certainly do want to pay attention as these things unroll. As I mentioned in the earlier segment, federal data suggests that there are more people now currently identifying as a daily or almost daily user of cannabis than alcohol. And when you start to think about that many people using a substance, we are going to have to build in mechanisms. But the knee-jerk make as many mechanisms as possible to, quote, keep people safe. So, interesting segment. Thank you, gentlemen. I know we're all having a little bit of technical issues. I'm in a storm, and Hector, it looks beautiful where you're at. So wherever you're at, I would stay there for the weekend because, of course, it is Friday. And this is Elevated Intel, and we are Florida Cannabis Action Network. These are just a few of the many things that we talk about on a regular basis. We are continuing to gather data for FLDecides.com and our voter education project. If you believe, like we do, that it is important to let voters know how candidates feel and how lawmakers feel about this issue, and more importantly, how they're voting and what they're going to do if they get elected. If you think that's important, please give generously to our campaign. We do not want to see the recriminalization of people for cannabis. And as we talk about building laws, we're going to have to talk about how we keep people safe. And when it comes to high quality cannabis, the most dangerous thing about cannabis continues to be the criminalization of it. So for our life, our liberty, and our property, we need to end cannabis prohibition. And we would invite you to join us and help us on our quest. Florida Cannabis years old. And with dedicated folks like you, we will live to fight another day. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Friday. Have a great week.